Hi guys, welcome back.
Hello. How are ya?
Hello. Okay, so we have some exciting developments in the world of SOS. First of all, we're instigating a new segment. It's not a segment that comes in every episode. It's a once a month segment, and it is called Going Rogue.
Going Rogue.
And this is the first one, and basically what this is, so this is our first one today, but from here on out, it's going to be the last Monday of every month is going to be our Going Rogue episode, where Alyssa and I just kind of branch out from the our like normal SOS formatting and talk about whatever the hell we want for a minute.
Yeah, we don't want to be like, I mean, not to say it's our thing. Like, we want to get to know people and like all the different kinds of people that we interview. Like, we're so lucky to get everyone's point of view, but sometimes we just want to like shoot the shit and talk about conspiracy theories and sex.
Right. And like being boxed, you know, we're not in a super boxed in genre, but we do, you know, our whole point of this podcast is SOS and examining people's SOS moments and how they got themselves out of them and move forward in life. And that is our main thing. And then we were like, well, we're still just a bunch of like goofball nerd weirdos. So once in a while we should allow some space for that.
I love that. Goofball nerd weirdos.
Girfball. I just said girfball. Girfball.
I am one drink in on this podcast, guys. Molly, where are you at?
Well, I already had a glass and a half of wine, so yeah, me too.
I'm drinking Razzacello. Shout out to my dad who makes his own limoncello.
Ooh,
I'm drinking
fancy. It. And for Alyssa, as we all know, it takes like 2 sips.
Yes, it's true. It takes 2 sips and I'm gone, but this is my second drink. So
yeah, I'm really amazed that you're still standing.
Well, basically to not veer off to why we're here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be interviewing a very dear friend of mine. We've been friends for like, I think 10 years. I have to ask him. But he's from New Jersey, from where I was raised, where I went to school, you know, where my streets are at. And yeah, he's someone that I've been keeping in close contact with, especially during the pandemic. Like, we just have each other's backs whenever we're feeling anxious, and Ryan the same. They make music together a lot. And he's just so funny. He has a lot of really funny and interesting points of view on dating, whether it be pre-pandemic, whether it be during the pandemic, and like all the shit that we kind of do as weird girfballs. Single girfballs. And like me and Molly, we're not single, but like, you know, so we wanted to talk to a single little mutant to give us. Well, and I'm
a little mutant. I'm also really interested in just like, there are pervasive falsehoods that straight men think about what women want or what they're supposed to be like on a date, and it's like ridiculous, some of the things that men believe women want. And so I'm kind of like, I mean, I don't know, this is my first time meeting Joey. Obviously Alyssa's known him for a long time, but I'm very anxious to hear just, you know, where the hell white straight single men are coming from, because I don't get it.
I don't get you guys. Like, yeah, I have a girlfriend that's always on the apps and she just tells me the craziest stories and I'm like, what the hell? But then Joey will tell me stories and I'm like, well, what's wrong with women? So we're going to get to the bottom of this crap. Sure. All right.
And so, yeah, this is officially our first Going Rogue episode. So from now on, you guys can look forward to those with us.
Maybe.
Or not. Or you'll be like, that's the one I'm going to skip every month.
Let us know at the SOS pod if you like it.
All right. So without further ado, let's bring on Joey. Welcome, Joey, to the pod.
Yes. Hello, SOS.
Let's hit the ground running. Yay!
Oh, yes, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure already. All 2 seconds of it.
Yes. Yeah, I want to reiterate to our audience that we, because obviously in the intro I said this, but I am drinking and I want everyone else to. Peer pressure.
Is that a margarita?
No, it's my dad's limoncello. He makes his own limoncello.
Oh, wow. A cordial cocktail.
It's a
after dinner
razzacello,
drink.
guys.
Wow,
check out my dad's Instagram at Ernie.Rosano.
Where he makes his own limoncello.
Anywho, I am so happy to have Joey here.
Oh,
We've been talking about having him on. Like I said, like me and Joe, we just like shoot the shit a lot, and we talk about men and women and dating and all the shit that like we go through. But I say we to be nice, but like haven't been single in a while. So I love to hear Joey's stories.
Well, you know what's funny is that
like
I've talked about this with you before, is that I feel like we've gone through pockets where we've been close and then we haven't talked so much, just not for any particular reason, just because distance happens, right? And then when I was out in LA in February, we sort of reconnected, you know, and from there, even before the global crisis, we kind of, me, you, and your husband got really close again. And it's been like a real stress relief for me, genuinely, to sit and just kind of air out shit that, like, my friends are sick of me on the East Coast because I talk about, you know, like, they don't want to hear about my girl problems or dating problems or things like that. So it's nice to have somebody else to talk to, you know what I mean, to check in with at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, in my boxers on my bed, you know, and just talk about stuff that, like, frankly, my friends don't want to hear about anymore.
Well, do you find it easier to talk to women about it? I mean, like, besides, like, Ryan's not a woman, but do you find it easier?
It's a good question. When it comes to, like, well, you know the answer to this, because when I'm trying to get sort of a women's lens or a women's perspective on something, if I feel like I'm reading a situation wrong, you're the first person that I call, you know, so.
Thank God, because there's other options and I don't like it.
Well, I think that sometimes I feel like, I mean, I talked to my mom about it too, but, like, my mom is almost 70. You know what I mean? And at this point, she wouldn't care if I married a stripper. You know, like, she just wants children. She wants grandchildren. So it's like, but it's nice to get a perspective of somebody that's a little bit younger than me when I'm going through troubles of trying to figure out how to go about a situation, you know, to get that female lens. Molly.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Well, we want to also kind of, like, give context to, like, why we're having you on. I'm like, you're obviously a very talented actor, very talented writer.
A really good bartender and an excellent waiter who's currently unemployed.
Same. Cheers to that. Cheers to that, ladies and gents.
Yes.
But you also are rich in having stories and rich in storytelling. And we just have to have your brain on to talk about all this stuff. But to give our audience context, like, how long, I mean, are you comfortable saying your age? Do you care?
Yeah, I don't know why people get so uncomfortable about that. I'm 39.
Oh, everybody gets.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, like, how long have you been single and or messing with online dating? Just so people have context for, like, how much experience.
I'm 39. I just turned 39 July 7th.
Ooh, happy late birthday.
Thanks. Alyssa and Ryan
a Cancer, happy birthday.
Didn't text me, but
yes,
that's
we
okay.
did. Yes, we did. Yes,
right.
we did.
Rude.
The day after, but.
Right. I'm 39. I've been single for it'll be 4 years in February. I was actually almost married. I was engaged to someone, and we're friends now. It's all good. She's in a great spot. She's a nurse. She's amazing. She's good, really good people, as my mom would say, but it just didn't work out. We both went in different directions. And so 2017 that was. So it'll be 4 years in February that I've been single and kind of in the dating game and kind of not.
Okay. That's like a healthy amount of time, because I feel like obviously it was a serious relationship, and it's not like we're catching you like 6 months out of that, like, fuck women, and also all I want to do is fuck women and blah, blah, blah. You're like probably at a more like settled place in terms of,
Yes, definitely past that stage. And also, like, I think that I was thinking about this last night because I was a little nervous thinking about what I was going to talk about with you ladies, but it's interesting. Like, I feel only now, like, I dated her for almost 4 years, and I feel like I needed 4 years of building back of myself and kind of finding my own autonomy and independence and kind of being reconnected with myself and the things that I sort of put on hold that sometimes you do put on hold when you date somebody, whether the relationship is healthy, whether it's not. Chances are you're going to go through an ebb and flow of both. But I went through it was really traumatic, you know, like the closer the wedding got, that, you know, like that cognitive dissonance, like I would go towards something that I knew kind of in my heart wasn't working. And so that first year out was a little rough, as you put it, Molly, a little bit, as far as kind of like figuring out what I want and dating and then not dating and going online obsessively and incessantly and being very hypersensitive to things and hyper dating almost. And now it's just kind of like I feel very calm and very kind of
more like rooted in who you are. Yeah.
Were you did you like join, like how long did it take for you to like get in the app world? Because I don't know, that was before you and your ex too, right?
What, like just like dating?
Like Tinder was around before.
Well, like, you know, and I in like the 4 years, I always have this thing that I say that I don't even know if it's completely accurate, but like I usually go on a dating site in these 4 years that I've been single. I'll go on a dating site probably 3 to 4 weeks a year. Like I'll give it 3 or 4 weeks. But I think this is the manipulative thing, especially that men do. Instagram is a dating site, no matter what anybody says. No, it's true. Like men, not all men, but a lot of men
think
and
it
women.
is.
But men, I'm a man. You use it sort of as a dating site sometimes, where like there's been moments in these 4 years where I would know a woman on the peripheral in the art scene, respectful, we're friends or whatever, but I don't really know her, right? But I know her enough to feel comfortable to DM her. Like, hey, that art show looked really good, or oh my God, I've been to Aruba too. But it's the intentions that are sort of false there, right? And I feel like I had to get through some of that, which was a little bit messy, full disclosure, to get to a point that now I know what my intentions are. You know, like on dating sites, similar to Instagram, it's just like your own personal website of the shit that you want people to know about you, this polished version of yourself.
Right.
This is who I am. I'm an actor. I'm a writer. I have a great family life. I'm in the middle of the Bahamas. I have abs. I have all this stuff. So it's not that much different. Like there really isn't a difference between, for me, Bumble and Hinge and Instagram. It's all just a trash feed of fake positive shit sometimes that you want to show people.
Well, and then you're also selecting who they show you, in the sense of like, aren't you selecting your age range as far as people you want to date? You're like setting filters for that before they even show up to you, correct?
Before you even see these people, Molly, there's like it's a great way to put it. We have in our generation so many filters to begin with, especially if you're single, before you really want to connect with somebody. You know, it's like we live in a maybe culture. You know, everything is maybe when you're dating. Like if you're single, like maybe you're interested, maybe you're not. Maybe you swipe through 50 people. Maybe you'll go to work. Maybe you'll start yoga today. Maybe you'll move to California. Maybe you'll do this. Maybe you'll do that. Maybe I like this guy. Maybe I don't. Maybe we'll go out for coffee. And for me, what's dangerous as an internet addict, I mean, I'm averaging anywhere between 6 to 9 hours of screen time a day on my phone. And chances are you might be too. You know, I think that there's a fantasy that I start to concoct in my head about who this girl is, who I want this girl to be. And then I meet them and they get spinach stuck in their tooth and I'm fucking done.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm done. I'm just like that, you know, or like they're not that person that you concoct, and it's dangerous.
But what do you ever flip the script on yourself and think like, does it cripple you when you're in front of them because you're like, oh my God, they have this like image of me that I'm not, and I have to, because you're admitting like you have that of them. Do you also go into it like, oh, they think I can't show them this side of me because they think I'm this?
Absolutely. I think that whenever, and I can only speak for men, right? But it's like, I have several friends that are male that do this thing where it's like, they'll meet a girl online, or they'll date a girl that they meet from Bumble or Tinder or Instagram, and then they're completely like unimpressed or let down, as if like you're a fucking king, right? But when that reverse happens, and a girl, like it happened to me recently, like a girl is sort of let down maybe by who you are, You know, like we were texting a lot. We were on Hinge, which I think is a little bit more adult-like from what I've gathered. It's like, I know what my intentions are now. And Hinge, it seems like the women that I've talked to as well, like it's very, for me, it's been transparent. I've had some nice dates. And there was one person in particular, I was like, wow, this is really nice. Like kind of connected, fellow counselor. Like I was a school counselor for a while.
Oh, cool.
But then I got kind of ghosted. I got a little dose of my own medicine, Molly. And
I'm really good at that too.
You know, and what happens, like in our generation, you get upset for 2 days and then you move on.
Right.
Right. But it goes to show that how important it is to be aware of your intentions when you're dating and be as transparent as possible. And at 35, I probably wasn't. And at 25, I probably wasn't. But at 39, I don't know any other way to be perfectly honest. And I'm not saying that to try to be a good guy. It's just that stage of where I'm at right now.
I mean, it's not desperation. Like, what else would you call it?
I think that during a pandemic, I did go through waves of it being desperation. I think that I've always had this thing since I've been little about a desperation to connect because I've been an artist and I've been very curious and I've always had fantasies of things and girls and lives and like my head is always in a million places. And I think all of that got really heightened during coronavirus to the point that like I looked around and I was like, well, you know, Alyssa has Ryan. A lot of my friends are dating somebody. You know, my one boy, Paulie, comes over. We watch movies every night, but there was definitely that heightened sense of...
Wait, that is such a Jersey name.
Yeah, Paulie. But there was there's definitely been a spike in a heightened sense of loneliness for me and a desperation to connect. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I think that we all are desperate to connect. I mean, we are look at what we do on Instagram, right?
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like we are desperate to connect all the time. So I think that the single life and dating just adds that other layer. For me.
When do you think like our generation, and maybe like you specifically, like became an internet addict? And do you think there's ever a way out of it? You know,
I was looking at this before. It's funny you said that because I was trying to look. I don't have a PowerPoint like we talked about, like, but I do. I was looking at this. I was like, well, maybe I'm not an internet addict, right? And then I looked, it said, you know, exhibit signs of preoccupation with the internet, which means thoughts about previous online activity or anticipation of the next time you're online. So I said, yes, that's me. Use of the internet in an increasing amount of time in order to achieve satisfaction. Yes, that's me. Repeated unsuccessful efforts to control or cut back or stop internet use. Feelings of restlessness, moodiness, depression, irritability, when attempting to reduce the use of internet or when I go on too long. Me. Jeopardizing or at a risk or a loss of significant relationships and career opportunities potentially because of internet use. Also,
do you think, but really, do you think because of internet use?
I think that there's times where I don't, when I say affect my career, I mean, there's times where I sit down and I say I have to finish 5 pages of a play. And then I blink my eye and I've been on Instagram for 4 hours and I have to go to work. So in that sense, it affects your ability, your job productivity.
That's true.
Right. And the last one was use of the internet as a way to escape problems or to relieve a dysphoric mood or a feeling of hopelessness, guilt, and anxiety or depression. All me. And chances are both of you at some point too. So for me, it started back in that generation of like beepers, right? Like when I first got a beeper. You know, at 39, it's interesting because we were on the cusp of like the AOL chat rooms and instant messengers, even before MySpace. So like we kind of remember the world without the internet, but at 12 or 13, at that very impressionable age, we got to a place where it was like, oh shit, like this is a whole other world that we can go to. And so it started for me then. It started with that. It started with pornography. It started with calling 800 and 900 numbers. Like when I was really young, like this whole thing of like, oh my God, there's all these worlds I can get to that I might not be allowed to go to.
And that you can be anonymous in.
And I could be anonymous in, which makes me want to do it even more. And then you blink your eye and at 39, you're like, well, what do my friend Paulie goes, you know, back in the day, people would say like, what are your hobbies? Like, oh, I go fishing or I do yoga. Now it's like, oh, the internet. Like the internet is your hobby.
The internet.
And so like I look back at the last 20 years of my life, besides like brushing my teeth and going to the bathroom and like working out, it's a part of my life now.
Are you completely resigned to it, or do you want like
lately
to change?
No, I feel like lately, because of the pandemic and because of like personal issues and family issues and things that have come up during COVID, I'm sure you ladies can get this concept of like, when you're in a time of distress, civil unrest, when the shit hits the fan and the chips are down, you really kind of see in your life who is valuable, who rises to the occasion with you, you know, who is willing to work with you, the conversations that you could have that are tough, especially since George Floyd, right? But somehow something happened for me where I felt like the internet became too much for me. Like things turned on me, you know, and like I became way too hypersensitive to everything and everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And so since like the middle of July, I've kind of been off Instagram, you know, and
yeah,
I feel better, you know, like I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think especially after, you know, like Alyssa knows this, but for a while I was like stupid, funny videos like, oh, I locked my keys in my car. Or my mom will yell at me like, Joey, you're still single. And like, as artists, we're creating a brand, right? And that's where the internet can be effective.
Right.
But somehow, like, I'll equate it to like one of my favorite, you know, Malcolm X quotes, like eventually those chickens come home to roost. And like, for me, like those internet chickens came home to roost and like things turned on me and like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was. Like my identity got lost between dating and Instagram and the civil unrest and virtue signaling and not virtue signaling and empathy and knowing who I am and arguments and going on forums and looking at people's comments. And I'm like, I had a panic attack. I had like a panic attack.
It's like, it's very ironic because like your identity gets lost in the act of trying to prove your identity so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially when there's much needed civil unrest. And this is one of the things that younger millennials do right. One of the many things, but one of the things which is bringing up those awkward conversations, you know, and I think that what happened, one person reached out to me because I curate a lot of art shows in town and it was a younger girl. And she said, you know, I hope that you're shedding light where it needs to be shed. And it kind of got me into a place of like, on the internet, she meant. And it got me like really anxiety ridden because it put me in this place. Well, listen, Joey, like you have your sort of comedy, funny personality online and you're online a lot. So where do you stand when it comes to these other things? Right. So, and that's important. But at the same time, I'm like, wait a minute. I've been a school counselor in Patterson for 7 years. I've been an advocate. I empower the youth. I've worked with children, mostly in the inner city for almost a decade. I've gotten the jobs. I've done the things. So it's like, how do you know that I'm not doing things?
Yeah, we've talked about this too. It's kind of like, you know, you don't know, and that sucks because we'll put that judgment on that person, but at the same time, it's like we have these fucking platforms, no matter how small, and it's like if you're presenting yourself in a way of like I give a fuck and this is me giving a fuck, then it could persuade someone else who doesn't give a fuck to give a fuck.
I completely agree. 100%. That's what you do it for. You in hopes.
Yeah. And I also think like, while admittedly, I think any intelligent person could admit like, I don't know what anybody on Instagram is doing off Instagram if I only see them on that platform. However, I do know when I go to someone's page and I can't tell if they're doing anything about it or saying anything about it. So it's one thing where like, that's where I think people have a responsibility where like, I don't feel the need to call out people because I claim to know how they live their life outside of Instagram. But what I do understand is that you are active on Instagram and you have a following. And when I go to your page, I have these questions like, what do you even do anything? And I don't want anyone to go to my page and wonder if I do anything or not. And it's not for other people, but like Alyssa said, like to spread that awareness, because I think to a degree, yeah, our online life isn't our full life, but I think because of how big the internet is now and in all of our lives, I think responsibility comes with that. Like you said, we all have our own personal websites. And then like multiples of them if you have different Instagram platforms, or you have the dating sites, you know, it's like we have all these advertisements for ourselves. So it is a little weird if nobody advertises their beliefs.
But it's like
anywhere.
Weird. Yeah. And like it's in that contrast too, because we were just talking about like how we're presenting ourselves online, and like that black box, that black and white selfie. It's just like most people think that's just fucking enough. So it's like, you know,
it's a weird
it's like
thing
what's better.
Yeah, I think that this is a thing that I think that all points are relatively valid. I think that what people don't do as much anymore, especially maybe younger kids, but everybody, is like, if you have questions about things like this, like to get people front and center, face to face, over coffee, or through a podcast like this, and hash those things out and talk. I think that it can get into a very toxic place, at least for me, if I go down that K-hole of like, just for me, like, what do people think? What don't people think? Like, when a lot of this happened, you know, I sort of went dark with certain people that I know didn't stand for what I believe in. And maybe, just maybe, as a person that has a master's in counseling and multicultural counseling, and who has been an adjunct and a teacher and a counselor, like, maybe I shouldn't have went dark on those people at first. Maybe that was an opportunity for me to sit and talk with those people about what they think and what I think, because it can't just be through the internet, you know. Like gauging like, and then the other side of it is like people that I know that are very active in civil rights online. But I also know that you're a drunk cokehead. So but hold on. So where's that post? You know what I mean? And it's like that same thing with, like, I think it's one of the questions you had, like, you know, what are things that make you sick about couples or whatever, or people. It's like, let's post, here's me and my fiance during a white people brunch in Silver Lake. We're eating avocado omelets, but 15 minutes before that, we got into a fight while trying to park the fucking car. Where's that post?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
So, like, what happened for me is that everything became sensory overload for now, where I just had to step back, where I'm like, you're kind of full of shit. And you're kind of not.
Yeah.
So do you think that, like, in turn for online dating, has this what we're talking about with the internet bled into, do you find now when you go on the first date with someone you met online, do you find yourself already assuming that they're full of shit?
No, you know what's funny? And that's a good question. I feel like in my late 20s, when I was at like my peak of being narcissistic and egocentric, and like I was touring with my band a lot, I was working a lot as an artist, I was very much a brat and felt sort of entitled in certain ways. I felt like that shtick that I have about being negative with women that I joke about with, dating women with Alyssa, is more of a shtick. Like, now when I go out, I really try to be present, as corny as it sounds, and I don't try to sift through those things, like I said before, like the spinach and the tooth. Like, that's that sort of Larry David neurotic part of me. But like, I've genuinely enjoyed these last 5 or 6 dates I went on. And then maybe it doesn't work out, right? But like, I really enjoyed that time together with that person, because I'm almost 40. You know, I'm not 29. You know what I mean? And like, my intentions now are different than they were when I was younger.
Yeah.
But it's still crazy, because I would be so curious to know what the statistics are of like people that wind up falling in love and getting married, even if it's for a phase or a stage where they met online.
My cousin married.
Same with me, my cousin
wife.
too.
Really? Yeah. And then he met her online, and then my other cousin, his brother, always calls her Tinderella.
That's great though. I mean, like, isn't that why you do it? I would love to know the numbers of like I wonder what the unsuccessful rate is. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
It seems like,
well, it has to be high. I mean, it has to be unbelievably high, because I feel like, I mean, you can speak on this more than I can, because like I've never been on this app, and me and Ryan always talk about like, or using Instagram for dating, like well, that's interesting actually, because I never thought about Instagram being a fucking dating site. So when me and Ryan are like, I wonder if we had Tinders, like what would we even put? Would we swipe right on each other? Well, we could just look at our Instagrams to see what the shit that we would post on our Tinder.
The tricky thing that men do, especially men, is that they, like I said before, they'll use Instagram as this sort of, remember that article I sent you about soft boys? There's a whole,
Yes.
there's a beautifully, Molly, you have to read this beautifully written, hilarious article in Vice. This English writer, I forgot her name. She wrote about different categories of like DM sliders and like manipulative men.
They're so good.
Yep.
I'm so mad I didn't send it to you.
And I'm not, you know, like I have been that. So I can speak in full disclosure about how men sometimes try to engage with women in Instagram because it's not a dating site. So they think they could kind of slide in like I said before, like, yo, like, you know,
Right.
that song you posted is so dope. You have such a good voice. I'm in a band.
Honestly, I have to say too, like, because that's very real and that happens all the time. But I feel like there's a lot of women, myself included, because I get messages like that, like all the time. And I like, it's so transparent to me. Like I even, it's not like, I mean, I know there are definitely women who are like, oh, wow, that's so sweet. And then like he asks her out eventually or something, or he makes some lewd comment and you're like, what? I did not see that coming. But I think a lot of women do, because we also deal with it when we walk to our cars and like when we walk down the street. Like that stuff is like normal. And so I think a lot of times men, it is manipulative behavior, but I think that they think that they're manipulating women when necessarily it's like or they think they're getting away with something when it's like, dude, I've never met you. You live across the country. I know you're not just messaging me to ask about like, well, you know, it's very transparent, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah,
so while it is manipulative behavior, it's almost like they think it's like trickery, but at the same time, if I engage in it, it's because well, for me personally, like if I engage with the man who does that, it would be knowing what he's doing. It's not this like, oh, how nice. He offered to like send me a beat for free. What?
Well, it's like when someone slides into your DM, is that just like a virtual catcall? Like when does it become like an actual genuine wanting to reach out, or if it's just a virtual catcall? Like how do you actually sift through that?
For me, it's, well, I mean, I wish girls slid into my DMs. I don't have anybody. You and Ryan slide into my DMs.
At Joey, wait, what's your Instagram?
At Joey Palestina. I'm 39. I'm
at Joey
single.
Palestina is 39, single, and ready to mingle.
But I think that it's a good point, like what you and Molly make, and it intimidates me sometimes, which is why I've sort of moved towards avoidance sometimes, because I'm like, in real life, because of this bullshit engagement, fake engagement on Instagram or online dating, like if there's a girl I like that's a waitress at a local cafe, this is let's say this is a true story. And like,
sounds familiar, Joe.
Yes.
Well, no, it's like, all right, so she's really nice and I'm a decently nice guy too. Decently, I don't think that's a word, but like she'll come over and like, I'll order a coffee, we'll laugh, and like she has a little extra smirk, but like she goes about her day, she's very busy. And like, I don't know what it is about this thing. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but like,
say it.
You know, like, well, it's like, okay, let me go to like the cafe's Instagram page and seriously, and then let me see if I could find her name through her followers, because I'm too scared to be like, hey, are you single? Would you like to go out for a cup of coffee? So I don't know. I think that I don't know what happened for me where I feel uncomfortable doing that.
Well, I think that's because of online. Everyone's used to interacting without having to really interact.
Yeah. And I guess I have a question for you two ladies. It's like,
well, no, before you go on, like also say the issue of that story, Joe. I think it's just like when they're too young.
She's not too young. She looks like she's 29.
She is 13.
No. She looks like she's 28 or 29 because she's been there for a long time.
Fair.
Lies. The lies.
No. Listen, I'm all for dating older. You know that.
Thank you. And that's for another podcast. We can talk about this.
True.
Because my mom says that I could date younger women, not young, but 25 and up. And if my mother says that, then
that's cute. My mom says I can.
Yeah, a lot of the older women in my life, like my aunts, like they're like, date whoever you want. They just want me to date somebody at this point. Like, it's like my mom thinks I'm like fucking Lars and the Real Girl. Like, I'm just going to bring over a fucking mannequin and put a wig on her and fucking. But I think that, Molly, that's a good point what you said. I think it's because it's so much easier, bless you, to like message somebody or say hello and like have that barrier up because of that fear of rejection. Whereas I should really just be like a adult and be like, hey, like, are you single? But then I think in my head, like, especially in 2020, is that appropriate to say? Like, for guidelines for women, like, what is appropriate? I think it's
sweet. Honestly, when I've had men say something like super respectful, even if it's straightforward, and just say like I was walking out of the grocery store a while back and some guy like came out behind me, but he wasn't like right up next to me. He stayed like a little, you know, he wasn't like, hi, well, but he was like, hi, I saw you in there. I'm sorry. I think you're really beautiful. And I don't know if you're single, but if you are, then would you like to, like, he really put himself out there. And I understand that takes a lot of guts for anybody. And I have a lot of respect for anybody who does that, like in a respectful way. And so, and I just told him at the time, I was like, I actually am seeing somebody, but thank you so much. Like, and I really appreciate you saying that. And I think that women too we do have our guard up a lot, and we do put off like fuck you vibes a lot. And when men might think like, whoa, that wasn't necessary, it's because we are used to having to do that. Because when I walk, like I said, I walked my car, I'll probably maybe 1 to 2 times in the 2-block walk, I'm going to have to like put my guard up for something, whether it's just ignoring something, put my head down, turn away, or shoot a comment back, always. So a lot of good guys get the shaft because they're just like trying to be thoughtful, and women are like seemingly rude. Like, you try to hold the door open and they give you a weird look, and it's like, oh geez, sorry. But I have to say that, like, and that's why a lot of women do that. But also I think it is on women. A lot of us need to, when a man is respectful and says something, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, are you single? I actually think it shows respect because you're not assuming you can just get a date, okay. You know? I think it's very like you are wanting to know, you're wanting to ask that question before you go in and like flirt or hit on her. It's respect, I think. And I think women need to make a practice of, if you are approached respectfully, like, I don't care how uninterested you are, like, honor the fact that he did that like an adult, like a man, to your face, and was kind about it. And so that's on us too, to like, when you are approached respectfully, be respectful back. My personal, see if you agree, Alyssa, I don't think saying, are you single? I don't think that's offensive.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I think, I don't know. I think it's hard because I also don't want to make a generalization of our sex, of being like, you know, of telling them what to accept. If they don't want to accept it, then fuck it. Let's move on. But there is something to that, of someone putting themselves out there and picking up what they're putting down and being respectful. If you're turning them down, being respectful of it.
Because I don't think that it's telling women what to accept. It's like, if you don't think that he was respectful, or you don't like how he said it, you don't have to be like, thank you. I'm only saying, like, when somebody approaches, like you're talking about doing, Joey, just like, hey, I don't know if you're single, or even if you, like, I just think that's a very respectful thing to ask first, because otherwise it's like when guys are like, hey, let me take you out sometime. It's like, okay, do I just not have a life outside of it? Do you want to, like, there are questions you would want to know before you ask somebody out.
You know what's interesting about that? The way you said it makes me think of something of, like, you have women, and I've said this to people before, like, you have experienced this type of mass trauma for years and years. Like, people kind of discard this, right? And I'm not just saying this to be the good guy, but it's like getting catcalled. You know, like, I watched my mother when I was younger, you know, this happened to my mother in front of me. And then you know, something, it was addressed. Yeah. You know, but it kind of made me think about something, and it's kind of like, I guess it makes sense that obviously it makes sense that your guard is always up, because you're always used to 8 times out of 10, it's going to be a scumbag and a fucking creep, either through a DM, either through a dating site, either, you know, while you're walking to your car with your groceries. And it's like what you said, Molly, it's like, well, what makes you think that like I would be interested? You know what I mean?
Like, I'm just amazing. Available for anybody. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the only time that straight men have ever experienced a smidgen of that, and it's not, at least for me, and it's nothing compared to what women experience, is when I get hit on by a gay guy. Like, I've had to I've had to establish boundaries with gay men, because men are men.
Yeah, you're right.
Gay or straight, men want to get laid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I have, you know, some gay friends that are very transparent. You know, I see them kind of go after it and hit on another guy, and they'll be respectful and give them their number. And I'm like, that motherfucker's a dude. No matter if he's gay or straight, that motherfucker's a dude. You know? And so it's like, I guess that makes a lot of sense. It's good advice for me.
And it's interesting because I have found myself, I have the best relationship with my dad in the world. And there are times when I'm like walking down the street and, you know, as a woman, Alyssa, too, like when you're walking down the street, even if it's like 1 block away, you already scope out, you know who's walking, you're going to have to, this guy. And I find
this
myself,
fucking guy over here.
like,
honestly,
I find myself like assuming, and that bothers me. And so I remember in particular this one time I was like, Molly, like, why are you such a fucking pessimist? This could be a sweet, what if this was your dad? There's so many men in the world that are like your dad. He was like an older man.
Yeah.
He was an older man.
You like
and
judge
I was
yourself, like, fuck.
And I was just sick of assuming the worst of men that I pass on the street, to be honest. And like, it doesn't matter if I'm in sweatpants, it doesn't matter. I'm just like, I'm used to that. And I was sick of my pessimism. So the one time I told my dad this too, I was like, you know what? No, because a lot of times the guys will just they say, hi, how are you? And you say, and you're like, oh, okay, hi. And then the next thing out of their mouth is inappropriate. And so you can't even, anyway, this guy's approaching, he's walking up, and I was like, this could be just like my dad. And so he comes up and he just says hi. He like kind of looks up briefly, he says hi. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I was like, hi. And looked him in the eye and then walked past, took 2 steps. And he's like, yeah, bitch, I'd like to fuck that. Like, just starts saying shit. And he's like a 60-something-year-old like man just walking down the street by himself, just said hello to me. I looked him in the eye and said hello. And in that moment, I was like, this is why. The one time I decide to like greet a man on the street that does that with eye contact and grace and like politeness and humanity is, I learned my lesson. Like,
yeah, but that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense that you're like that, you know? And it's like, I think that for me, and I've said this to Alyssa before, I've always been like, I can get crushes easily on like bartenders and waitresses or like people that work in cafes because I get to see them every day and I get to know them slowly. And like, I feel like it's important for me to kind of try to connect. But then the sick thing I do is I just obsess about it in my head of like a story of like me and her and like going to the Carpathos Greek island and like we're drinking coffee and like, you know, I'm eating sardines off her head. Maybe not her head, but anyway, keep going. And like, and then, you know, like all this stuff comes up in my fucking head. And then I get there and I'm like, can I get a medium coffee? And then I just leave. And it's so like, that's not healthy.
But you know what I think is interesting it's interesting to hear that because that's a stereotype that's often put on to women, probably because a lot of women do that is like, you know, that's a stereotypical, like, you know, in movies where it's like, oh, she's already picturing their vacation together and already like just dramatizing stuff in your head. I think it's really endearing that men do the same thing.
And I'd like to try to break that barrier of being like, hey, you know, are you single? And then I don't know what it is. Like we appear like we're so confident, especially online, but in the end, like we're so fragile and like that fear of rejection is so cohesive for everybody, especially, you know, our culture now. And it's like, I have to kind of break through that, especially in this time now where I feel very confident in my intentions and what I want. But you know, it's like, how many times am I going to go get the fucking coffee at this fucking lunch shop without her being like, okay, like, I know you like the cafe con leche, Joey, but just ask me for my number or get lost.
Right.
I mean, you say it doesn't happen, like girls don't slide into your DMs, but I'm curious, like, when women approaching you and like hitting on you and like how that usually goes. Because like, I remember when I was younger and I was single, like I usually made first moves. I usually would come up to the guy first.
I feel like sort of another thing. I think one of the questions you had that I liked about celibacy and millennials being celibate or not being celibate is, I feel also like because I know what my intentions are and I'm clear, there's also sort of like a sexual and intimate avoidance that I have where like, even sometimes if I see somebody hit on me, like a woman hit on me, I sort of get avoidant, or I get intimidated, or I get nervous because I've been out of the game a little bit, you know, and I'm as well just say that, but it's been on purpose. And I feel stronger here and here than I ever have because of that, because I'm not just dating incessantly and being promiscuous. Right. But when women have hit on me, sometimes it's just somebody that I'm not attracted to, of course, you know, or sometimes, I don't know, it doesn't happen that much. Like sometimes girls will leave me their numbers as a bartender or a waiter, but that's like not that much. And then when it happens, you know, you look at your other dumb male friend like, see, look at this. Because like it doesn't happen. And then for women, it happens once a fucking day if you're a bartender or a waiter.
Is it happening more now, like in the pandemic? Like, have you gotten any women approaching you first online about, because like you said, we're all in a desperate mode?
I think like men are liars, right? I think like a lot of my men friends have said like, bro, like online dating, it's been crazy, man. Like I'm sleeping with this person. Like
everyone's so
just
horny.
Like, everyone's so horny and desperate. And I'm like,
where
is that? I talk to Alyssa and Ryan at 2:00 in the fucking morning every night. Like, where is that?
Maybe you shouldn't call us anymore.
Well, no, I think what it is, in all seriousness, and I had this conversation with Steve, you know, I said to Steve, you know, a couple of the girls that I've been interested in, I said, I don't know what it is, but I kind of get to like this edge and then I sort of back off. And he says, well, maybe stop looking at it in a negative way. Maybe you're at a stage in your life where there are these checkpoints now of things that mean something to you that maybe at another point didn't. And you would sleep with them then, or you would engage in false intentions then. I've been with women that I blink my eye and I'm like, after 2 months, you kind of know. And then you blink your eye and it's 3 years or it's 4 years. And so what are your intentions is my question now. And I think that like, I got to give myself a little bit more credit for having this sort of checklist now of like getting on that edge or almost making a decision, but knowing that like, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's like an exceptional level of self-awareness that I think is really healthy. And I think it leads to truer and fewer connections, because I think it's like you're more real with yourself, and therefore you're more real with them. You also don't have the time of day that we all used to have when we were younger for other people's bullshit, let alone our own. And it just becomes this like, the less time you have for bullshit, the less people you bring into your life. I think that's a good thing. Absolutely. Though. I think it's healthy.
Absolutely. And I think that the only way that I was able to get here was through all of the things that have happened to me in the past, you know, like the addictions that I've had, the vices that I've had, the decisions that I've made, especially when your ego's flying high, you know, like I've had times where my artistic ego is up, whether I'm curating a lot of art shows, I'm talking to a lot of people, I feel that confidence. I feel people sort of penetrating towards me. And so it's an easy time to kind of hook up with somebody or go on dates, you know what I mean? And then like, you got to step back and say like, you know, was it worth it?
Yeah.
Was it worth it for what? You know? And like, and I guess that I get mad that sometimes I get mad that I'm not there anymore because physically I'm longing, right? Like I've been celibate for a while now. And like, I'm kind of like, all right, you know? And that's the other perspective. Like some friends that I know that are girls, like girlfriends of mine, think like, well, it's okay sometimes to connect with somebody and to have sex if you're both on the same page and it's consensual.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but it depends how much depth you're looking for.
What'd you say?
I just said it depends how much depth you're looking for. Like, yeah, that's okay. It's okay. A lot of things are okay, but not desirable, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, at what point? Because in the context of today's world and where society is, we kind of wanted to end with asking you, like, what is your ideal romantic situation right now? The way the world is set up and the way that you're able to interact with people as of now. And after having this conversation with you, like now that where you are internally and in your, you know, your peace of mind and who you are, plays a big part in that. So I'm curious, like what you kind of see for the future, what you want for the future.
I think I want somebody that's, and this is kind of lacked in previous relationships I've been in, which probably was some trauma for me, like looking at all of the women that I've dated, you know, I want somebody that's going to be able to empower me. I think empowerment is such a important thing that I learned, especially through getting a master's in counseling and working in the inner city, how important it is to build other people up. And that for me is the most important thing that I'm looking for, I think, in a romantic relationship, is somebody that's going to advocate for me, empower me, challenge me. I think sometimes that younger millennials don't do a great job at conflict resolution. I think sometimes that's why they avoid relationships, is that you need conflict. You need to learn through conflict. So finding a partner that I could have conflict with and work through it. I think internet and having an internet addiction, like that's the symptom of it. It exacerbates that. Yeah. Right. And I also think, and this was always a struggle for me in previous relationships, is an equal sense of autonomy, of being able to have your own lives. Listen, we know, us three know, like as artists, like this sounds so first world, but it's difficult because you are building your own momentum in addition to building a life with somebody else. But you also need to have your own life, and you are also getting rejected every fucking day, whether you're a writer, an actor, a dancer, it doesn't matter. And that's a lot to deal with. So having somebody that can build that with you, but also somebody that knows that motherfucker, you might have to fly to New York or LA and do things on your own, is important to me. There has to be a sense of autonomy. Yeah, like a sense of not too much codependency, but also like a close relationship. You do become codependent. There's a healthy way to do it, and there's an unhealthy way, I guess. So like, yeah, having separate lives, I think you're right. That's important. And I think something detrimental before we like exit out that I've done in the past sometimes with relationships is like that sort of like counselor mentality of feeling like I have to take care of somebody. I would never say dating down. What I would say is being attracted to somebody. I think you just said dating down. Well, no, like someone that might be weaker, or somebody that has issues that I could fill for them, or voids that they have. And that's important, being like gaps that you fill. But then you wind up being like, I can't be your counselor. You know, I can't be like we need you. This is shit. I saw a great Calvin and Hobbes quote. I will take care of myself for you, and you will take care of yourself for me. And I feel like that is the most important part of a friendship, a family dynamic, and an intimate relationship. That's beautiful. I like that a lot. And listen, my name is Joey. I'm 39. I'm single. I live in Bloomfield. Girls from New York don't like that I live in Bloomfield. That's why I don't date online. They are a little ego, you know, but you know, I'm a funny guy. Bloomfield. My favorite movie's Amelie. All right. Oh my gosh, points. That's so cute. You know what I mean, Mo? So let me get it. I'm coming right out to Los Feliz. We're going to some nice art galleries, and you guys are going to hook me up with somebody nice. Yeah. No, I actually just now when you said that, I thought of somebody. So I'll slide your DMs. Oh, wait, no, I guess I'll say it here. Molly, don't even start, because now as soon as we get off this, I'm in my bed with a notebook. Well, maybe this girl does this. Maybe she does that. Maybe we can go to Russia together. Do I know the girl, Molly? Yes. Oh, yay! You've met her. You've met her. But I really want to say, Joey, that I'm very glad that you came on. I'm exceptionally impressed. And this is like not to knock all men, because I love men. I just know that a lot of men have a hard time being as open and transparent as you are in this interview. And it is an extremely beautiful trait. And I think that you are an incredible, refreshingly honest person. And I want to have you back on. Yeah, we got to have you back on. I said that, Joe. We got to have you back on, maybe with like a girl, to have like a little tete-a-tete, you know? Well, I think it's important work what you ladies are doing, and just being able to stay creative and stay artistic and keep building, keep doing what you're doing. And like, from my perspective, I'm envious and I'm proud of you, because it takes a lot of work to do this every week. I don't think people understand what it takes to get guests on and to do things and to curate this and to keep going. And so it's been a pleasure for me to talk about it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joe. Yeah. I love you. Can we be friends now too? Yeah, we're all friends on Instagram, which means
Just
we're
slip me
friends
into
in
your
real
little
life.
yes.
It's not
Slip me
real
into
unless it's online.
The rotation of you calling Ryan and then Alyssa, and then add me into there, and then it'll be like a whole. Okay, cool.
Because Ryan's on the rotation where I think he's irritated with me, so it'll be you, Molly, or it'll be Alyssa, and then we'll FaceTime.
Cool.
And I'll tell you about the waitress. You know, I'll get updates.
I'll hook you up with my friend.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll FaceTime you while I'm at the luncheonette. So you can just walk through with me,
No,
right?
because that's sending mixed signals. Then he's like, who's that girl he's FaceTiming?
No. I'll put you in my pocket with my earbuds, and then I'll be like, okay, she's right here.
Wait,
and then you'll be
funny.
like, Molly will be like, okay, just go up and say, are you single? And I'll like, it'll be like a.
Oh, wait. How cute would this be if you guys ended up dating and she hears a podcast and it's like, oh, I'm so stupid.
Well, then
whatever.
she dumps me after she hears the podcast.
Exactly.
And she knows that I've been fixated.
But you jump her first
Exactly.
because she gets spinach in her teeth. So.
All right. We love you, Joe. Thank you.
Love you, girls. Be well.
You too. Thank you.
Au revoir.
Well, thank you again to Joey. That was a very enlightening conversation.
I hope you enjoyed the honesty, the candor, and the laughs, the gaffs,
yes,
and the good times. Thank you again, Joey. We love you. Hopefully we'll have you on again, get a little update on your love life, on life in general, you know?
Oh, yes. And I also, let us know what you guys think. I think it'd be fun to do on one of our Going Rogue episodes, a similar type conversation, but with listener questions. And like the week before, we'd have you guys submit questions, and I think it could be fun. Let us know what you think, or any random ass topics that you want us to cover for our Going Rogue episodes.
Yep. Yeah, just let us know at the SOS Pod. Y'all know where to go. And we were trying to think of something to shout out. And because I know this episode's airing at the end of August, but I hope people don't forget about what's going on in Turkey. And we say this because, recently there was a flood of black and white selfies on your Instagram. I'm sure everyone saw it. And it's a challenge accepted. And it's a beautiful thing to see women's empowerment and everything. But, it kind of distracted from the real issue, which was femicide and abuse of women in Turkey.
Yeah.
So we wanted to shout out an organization called We Will Stop Femicide. It's an Istanbul-based organization that tracks the number of murdered women in Turkey based on news reports and accounts from family members. They keep records and collect data to shed light on femicide facts in Turkey and share it with the public on a monthly basis. They monitor femicide cases in the country and alert the authorities about the relevant developments. Its mission is to stop femicide and ensure protection from violence. It fights against all types of women's rights violations, starting with the violation of right to life. Many women in Turkey who are being abused seek but never receive proper help. Melek Onder of the We Will Stop Femicide initiative says that Turkish police, the government, and state officials must do much more to protect women at risk. She says there were cases where women who were being violently abused asked for help, but nothing happened. So to learn more, visit. We're going to link this URL on social media and in our show notes because it's very long. It's in Turkish. It wouldn't make sense for me to kind of relay that to you right now.
Yeah.
So again, look for it in our show notes. And on social media, it's called We Will Stop Femicide.
Yes. Thank you. And please, you guys, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the SOS Pod. On YouTube, you can find us SOS with Molly and Alyssa. You can watch our episodes there. Please, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, please leave a review and rate our 5 stars, preferably.
Please.
But it truly, truly helps us. We are a baby, brand new podcast, and we're trying to grow. So help us.
Help us.
Thank you. And here's to turning meltdowns into magic.